Hello, mainstreamers and cinephiles and everybody in between. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
And Operation Silver Screen is a go.
Hello, welcome to Operation Silver Screen. This cinema-related operation has been created to clear our desks from stacks of open cases. And what are these cases? Well, even being the film lovers that we are, Bryant and I still have a huge backlog of must-see films that we still need to experience. So each week we'll tackle a film that either one of us or both of us still need to see. We'll then provide a debrief of our week's mission, giving our outlook on the film's popularity and significance, as well as providing our opinion on whether or not it is worth seeing and other fun insights. So Brian, what was our mission this week?
Our recent mission led us to ask a man for a favor on the day of his daughter's wedding and take us on the gangster epic, The Godfather by Francis Ford Coppola. This is in celebration of this movie's 50th year anniversary here in 2022. Also, requested by the Don himself, the first portion of our show is going to be spoiler-free, so do not be weary of us spoiling anything for you. In the second half of our show, we'll go ahead and get into the spoilers, but for now, spoiler-free. Everybody's welcome. So, Caitlyn, this is a movie that I have seen and you have yet to see, this is probably your highest film on the shame list. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think probably this or Titanic maybe would be my biggest for shame films. Although I would say that this is probably much better than Titanic in my opinion, from what I know of Titanic.
Yeah, I don't think Titanic, I don't give you any shame for that. I don't think I've ever received shame for Titanic. Godfather, I can see.
I've received so much shame for Titanic, and yeah, I've seen clips of it, I've seen parts of it, but I've never sat down and watched the whole thing. And it's one of those films where throughout the years, I bring it up and it's all, oh my gosh, you've never seen Titanic? And that's the number one film that I've gotten that for. But I really don't have any interest in it, so that's probably why it's my biggest for shame. It might stay on there for a bit, unless you make me watch it.
Oh, that is one of our dreaded picks. Both of us do not want to watch that film, and we have to. Now, the ones giving you shame for Titanic, are they mostly women? Because I've never received shame for Titanic.
No, I think it's actually been more men than women.
Huh, I wonder if they just expect you to watch that? Sounds sexist in my opinion.
I think I've met a lot of men who actually really genuinely love Titanic.
Maybe they're more open to you, and when I ask someone like, hey, what do you like? Oh, I like, The Godfather, of course. Yeah, gangsters and boats, guns.
Yeah, that might be it. I think, honestly, not having seen Titanic is now part of my personality. So that's another reason why it's a dreaded pick. I don't know who I am if I've seen Titanic.
So what kept you from watching this movie?
Honestly, there's not really a good reason for me. I feel like this is one that my reasonings are very similar to There Will Be Blood, because on its surface, it's a film that I knew that I was going to enjoy. It had actors that I enjoy. I really am a Brando fan for the most part. Some of his earlier works I'm more familiar with than his later works. But yeah, there's really no other reason other than the runtime. It takes a lot to be able to sit down and watch a 3-hour movie, and it's about 3 hours, right?
2 hours and 55 minutes.
Yeah, so close enough. And making sure that you're in the right mindset to be able to sit and really digest that film for 3 hours it's a lot. It's a big undertaking in itself. And I think also I said before that sometimes when I know that I'm going to like a film, I'm less willing to just jump in and watch it. I think I want to make sure I give it the proper attention that's due to it. And I don't know. It's just how I am, I guess. I prolong enjoyment. I put off joy in my life.
No, I understand that. I do the same thing with some films. I think that's one of the things that kept me from watching There Would Be Blood, because it's from one of my favorite directors, and I know everybody talks about Daniel Day-Lewis, so I wanted to make sure that I was in the right frame of mind when I watched it.
And I've seen some of Coppola's stuff before. I'm kind of blanking on what I've seen other than Apocalypse Now, but I have seen Apocalypse Now, which is also a very lengthy film. Not my favorite, but it's something that I have seen from him, so I am somewhat familiar with him as a director. Obviously, he's a very prolific director.
Yes, he is, and we'll talk a little bit about his history as well, because he wasn't always that prolific director. But this film here is a highly acclaimed film, in which this film had won 3 Oscars, but was nominated for a total of 11. The 3 Oscars that it won was Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role, and Best Writing Adapted Screenplay. This is also number 2 on IMDb for the top 250 list, which we've been talking about recently. The IMDb list is not appearing to be as strong as it was before. I think it's now movies are getting more reviews from a lot of common people, non-critics. Certain movies are making their way up for popularity rather than how good they actually are. But I gotta say, for at least the top 5 films in IMDb, they truly do belong there. This one as well. And actually, this is going to be the highest on our IMDb list that we'll ever do for this show, because the next one we both seen, we actually watched together, which number 1 is Shawshank Redemption. Going back to the Oscars, also like to note that 3 of the nominations were for supporting actors alone. This is a huge film with a huge cast, and everyone gets a pretty good time to shine in this. So the 3 nominations for supporting actors does make sense. And then, of course, this is just regarded as one of the best movies of all time. For me to go ahead and list every list that provides this movie as its number 1 to must see, we'll just be here all day. Everybody knows about this movie. Almost everybody. I've met one person in my life who did not know about this movie at all, which was very shocking. But most people know this movie, and most people know that this is claimed to be one of the best movies. Whether it's their favorite or not, or they haven't seen it, they know that this film is out there and it's regarded as one of the best. Is there anything additional you found in what critics had to say about this movie?
Yeah, I also want to note that it was ranked number 2 also on the American Film Institute's list of 100 greatest movies of all time. It was also the highest grossing film of 1972, and right now it sits at number 25 on the list of highest grossing films of all time. That list was released in 2020, and it was a list that was adjusted for inflation. If you don't do that adjustments, it might be lower than that. But when you do that adjustments, that's where it sits. Of the 3 Oscars that it won, that would included Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Adapted Screenplay. And that was an interesting Oscar ceremony because both Brando and Al Pacino did boycott those Oscars. And I think that's an interesting thing to note because it's something that I found interesting. Brando boycotted the Oscars that year, but he sent actress and American Indian activist Sachin Littlefeather in his place to accept the award. And this was to bring awareness to the treatment of Indigenous Americans in both the film industry and in the country in general. This was during the Wounded Knee protests that were happening at this time, so it was to bring attention to that. And later she was blacklisted and her life was actually threatened after that. So that was something that was interesting to note, and I definitely recommend looking up her acceptance speech, both online, on the video format, but also the longer letter that she was unable to give fully on screen. Al Pacino's reasoning for boycotting was a little bit different than Brando's, not quite so noble, but also I understand it. So he boycotted the Oscars because he was unhappy that he was placed in the supporting actor category instead of the best actor category, even though he had more screen time than Brando. And watching this film finally, I kind of get it. He definitely did have a lot of screen time, and I think he was more of the lead actor than Brando was.
Yeah, I can see it both ways. Because this really does feel like Brando's movie, even though he's not in there for the most of the screen time. And then Al Pacino, it really is his story. It's his coming of maturity film. So I understand his frustration with it, but I don't know if boycotting was really necessary. So we talked about how this film is one of the best films. It has a lot of accolades. This is your first time seeing it. You being the film lover that you are and finally get to cross this off your list. How did you feel about the movie?
I enjoyed this movie. I think I even enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I think there are some elements to it that maybe feel a little bit dated, but in general, I think that this was a film that was very well done, and it's a story that really interested me overall.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I thought you were going to be kind of against this movie, but then I started thinking about it, and this is sort of your type of movies. And you do like gangster films and gangster properties. Your favorite TV show is Boardwalk Empire, correct?
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
So for me, this was my second time watching it. I was having trouble remembering all the parts of this movie. Especially I was trying to remember what was in part 1 and what was in part 2, because I watched them back to back, I think on separate days. But like either the days were back to back or I watched them straight back to back. But I did remember all like the great moments of this film that I really liked. And this is a film that I have to agree with the critics out there and a lot of people who put this up as one of the best movies out there. I do think it is a great film. It is quite the epic that really does make you fall in love with these gangsters. You know, we'll talk more about the significance and the influence that this had. as far as gangsters goes and kind of creating that gangster movement that people fell in love with. I definitely understand it after watching this film. It has a wide cast, like I mentioned earlier. You know, all those people that got the supporting actor nominations definitely deserve it. Everybody gets a good amount of screen time and gets some good spotlights here. You do fall in love with a couple of the characters, and you hate to see what happens to them. Again, this is quite the epic. It's going through a large portion of time, and there's ups and downs for a lot of the characters. It was interesting watching as well as the plans get revealed, and you see the betrayal, you see the comeuppance of things. I really did enjoy this film, and I did not feel that 3 hours. This is a film that, the 2 hours and 55 minutes, it's intimidating, but I didn't feel it throughout the movie at all, and it kept me interested throughout the whole film.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I really didn't feel the runtime at all. I think at one point we even paused it and I was like, oh gosh, that's where we're at already? Because it just went by really fast. So there was a bit of a fear that it was going to be overhyped going into it. You never like a film to be overhyped for you because you never feel like you're quite in on it. You know what I mean? Like you're not in the true film circle if you don't enjoy what everyone else is enjoying. But I did enjoy this film. I think the only, I don't want to say disappointment, but surprise to me was just how little Brando was in it. Because going into this, he's on the cover of all the DVDs. He's always in the promotional material. I thought he was going to be an even bigger factor in this film than what he was. But the way the story played out, I didn't really mind it. It was okay. I didn't have really any qualms with it, but it was a surprise to me.
Yeah, so it was a surprise for me too when I first saw this film. I was expecting this to be Marlon Brando's story or Don Corleone's story, but it really is him kind of passing the torch on to Michael. But this is a pretty long movie. I would say like about a third of it is his movie.
A third? I would say less than that.
Less than that? Well, a third would be an hour, so yeah, probably a little less than that.
I definitely don't think that this is his best role. I think that this is commonly cited as Brando's best role, but I feel like he wasn't a given quite enough for me to say that. I guess with the transformation of the character, and he did play definitely a strong character, but just because he didn't take that lead role, I don't think I would personally say that's his best role, but I've seen him in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can say this is his best role. I'm trying to think of the other Marlon Brando movies that I have seen.
I think Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront are two that come to mind first.
Oh, yeah, we watched Streetcar Named Desire as well.
Mm-hmm. Love that movie.
Great times. Stella!
Yeah, have you seen On the Waterfront yet?
I have not. I thought that was James Dean.
No, that's Brando. We might have to put that on the for shame list. That's a big one.
Yeah, it is. I would say that this is a very unique role, not just for him, but this is a unique character. This is just one of those top created characters, and you do have to give credit to the actor for that as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely liked the character.
One thing, I can't say I found it surprising, but this film also, it has a certain tone to it. Like it's sort of compressed in a good way. There is a lot of violence in this film. There's a lot of brawling. There's a lot of shootouts, a lot of people getting killed. It's a ruthless film, but it never felt like an action film. It never felt outrageous. It all had this sort of grace to it.
Yeah, I think having watched quite a few gangster type movies, I think in a lot of gangster movies that you watch, they tend to go one of two directions. And one is that it almost is too serious, where it's mostly all dialogue. There's not a lot of action. Sometimes the tone almost kind of feels a little bit monotone. It gets kind of boring. It's more focused on the politics, and that's about it. And then there's also gangster movies that are only focused on the action. There's not very good story, and it's just focused on that brutality. But I think that there are directors who have learned to master the in-between spot where it has the action, but it also has a good amount of the politics and the dialogue.
Yeah, because I would say this film kind of reflects the characters with necessary violence, just as the director is putting in necessary violence and thinking about it in that way. Not thinking about, okay, now I got to put in an action scene here, or now I got to rise up the tension here. No, it comes naturally. It makes sense and is a secondary portion of this film and how these characters as far as they work, this is how it is for them. The family in this movie, they only engage in violence when they need to. They actually try to stay away from another war, which is a plot of this movie, is that they don't want to get into another war with the other 5 families or the other 4 families. But there are times when they're pushed to that point or emotions rise up where they need to result in violence, and you understand why they need to do that. It's not so much that they're putting in these scenes just to give us a little action, just to give something to wake us up. It's in there because it fits.
Yeah, I do agree. I do think that something that kind of confused me sometimes, though, was the morality of his family, because you do have this idea that they are ruthless political figures in a way, and they're going to do what they have to do. But at the same time, I don't really think this is a spoiler, but the action really starts because they don't want to get into the drug business, and there's sort of a moral questioning there, and not just moral questioning, but also like a questioning about how they want to run their business. And so there's a business angle of it as well. But as someone who knows that, you know, drugs were definitely a large part of, you know, gangster world, that it kind of seemed off to me that they had moral drawbacks to this.
Yeah, that's why I said this movie makes you fall in love with the gangsters, and we'll talk more about it in the influence that it had. But this movie, it makes it a point to let you know that they aren't gangsters, they aren't a mafia, they're a family. They are a business.
Yeah, I always wish that, though, we did have a little bit more discussion about what their business actually was, because that kind of confused me, where they were getting their money outside of, like, the casinos.
You didn't see the scene with the bake sale?
The bake sale? They have the family bake sale every month.
Yeah, that's why he was getting all that fruit. He needed the fruit for the bake sale.
For the apple pies.
Yeah.
The lemon meringues.
And with the action, there is a scene, not even a scene, there are a couple scenes. It's kind of I'll just call it the Michael's plan in the third act. I absolutely loved. Like, this is something that this is some real gangster stuff right here. And I love it. It's something that I remember completely before watching this film, and I loved seeing it again. And there's a couple moments in this movie where there's a couple of those standout scenes.
Yeah, I agree. This movie definitely is, I guess you can call it a corruption story about Michael's descent into this world and becoming kind of this more ruthless figure. And I agree that his plan in the third act of the film was spectacular to watch. I really enjoyed it.
Now, did you like the descent for Michael? Is that something that you were interested in and would like to see more of?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think corruption arcs in general in media I find very fascinating. It's a trope that I really enjoy in general.
Oh, I'm excited for part 2 then. That's actually what part 2 is about.
See, I'm scared. I'm scared because I really did like part 1, and then you always hear that part 2 is so much better than part 1. It's the better of the two, and it's an amazing sequel. But I don't know. Is it overhyped? I don't know. Am I going to like it better than this? Because I like this quite a bit. So I don't know. I can't see how it can be better, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I'll keep my opinions. I won't say too much about part 2, but okay. I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing part 2 at some point, of course. Maybe this year, because they are making a TV show about the making of this film. So it could line up pretty well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, your boy Miles Teller is going to be in there. Main star.
Jeez. No. I actually don't dislike Miles Teller. I liked him in Whiplash, but he takes some bad roles. Although I don't think he's really been in anything recently. Has he?
No, he took a step back.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in too much. I think he's kind of in that phase of, he was that YA actor for a little bit, and maybe he got too old for that, or not even just that. Those movies fell off. We're not having that trend, so he had to be placed somewhere else. So we'll see how he does because this is actually a TV show, so we'll get some extended time with him.
Okay.
And we talked a lot about the influence that this movie had. What did you find in your research?
Ooh, I have a lot for this category. Where to start? I do think that as a film with the story that it gave, I do think it really kicked off the genre of crime films that really criticized the idea of what the American dream was. I think Scorsese's credited a lot with this kind of theme, especially with Goodfellas, but I definitely think that this is one film that kind of kicked that off.
Yeah, this film definitely kicked it off, and just kind of the whole gangster movie movement almost, to where we still feel it today. we still see these movies. You had the Sopranos TV show, and they recently had the prequel movie come out. People are still much in love with this style of gangster movies, mafia. And I think that's because this movie made it, like I said before, they don't use the words mafia and gangster, they use the word family. So it makes them sympathetic in a way and gives them a positive motivation, which has been kind of good and bad because people go ahead and they praise a lot of these people and they forget that, oh no, these aren't people that you should really be praising. Some better than most, but they still are a crime syndicate. But I can definitely see, like, yeah, you fall in love with the family.
Yeah, I agree. And before I talk a little bit about the influence of Coppola, also I just want to note that this film has been referenced in several other films throughout time. I mean, it's in some obvious ones. There's some references in cartoons such as Despicable Me, The Rugrats in Paris. But there's also more subtle ones that have some references and homages to the movie. Like in American Gangster, there's a scene where he drops the gun. In Old Boy, there's a use of oranges. And there's some offhand lines and parallel shots in Moonrise Kingdom and Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, respectively. Was there any other parodies or references that you noticed in your research?
Yes, the wedding scene is probably the most parodied one. We talked about the Godfather in the Rugrats, as they called it. They also, one of my favorite movies, Zootopia, they had a whole Godfather scene in there, which felt a little out of place, but still down with it. Also, the oranges. The oranges are a big thing. It's not just Old Boy that has had the oranges. I talked about my tattoos on the show before. I have several images on a film strip to go ahead and symbolize the genres of movies. For Thriller, I have an orange on it. And that is because oranges now foreshadow tragedy in movie. And this movie was that one to popularize it, if not to actually start it. Like you said, we see it in Old Boy, Requiem for a Dream. We see it because they're selling drugs from a truck that has oranges on the side of it. In La La Land, there's a mural with an orange on it. So oranges have a big play. This is a symbolism to foreshadow tragedy, and it's very interesting for them to put it in there. And it comes back in this trilogy. I can't remember if it was in the second one, but I read that it was in the third one, which I have not actually watched part 3.
Before I start to talk about the influence it had for those who worked on that film, do you have anything else to say about the influence that the story itself had?
I would say we talked about the good and the bad with the family and people falling in love with the gangsters and sort of glorifying mafia members and gangsters. This had a positive and a negative impact on Italian Americans as well. Yes, it did bring Italian Americans to the limelight, but it also started to create stereotypes. Now people were thinking that all Italian Americans worked for the mafia and they were all about family and gangsters. Granted, it was good that they got their time to shine on screen. However, it did have some negative consequences with that.
Yeah, so I looked that up as well, and I definitely think, though, that I saw more praising it, at least for at the time what it presented to Italian Americans. It gave character to Italian Americans and to Italian immigrants outside of what was the stereotypes of the time. And it was a film that was about Italian Americans that was also created by Italian Americans. So that was a big deal back then. And I know that many have also applauded it for the familial love that was shown as part of that culture. I do agree. I think some of the more negative stereotypes that came out of it is something that we probably think more of in today's looking back at it.
Yes. And that kind of happens with everything almost. You know, same thing happened with black people in gangster movies. It was cool at first, and then they kind of got that stereotype from it as well. But that comes down just to the individual person and what you pull from this movie. It was separate real life from fiction. And it is interesting because we hear Italian American. We don't hear that so much now. Italian Americans are just Americans. They're just Caucasian with Italian descent or European descent. We don't really see the Italian American so much. And I think the Italian American oppression is something that people tend to forget about when we think about segregation, because Italians are European, they're Caucasian in a sense. And people think, okay, well, they must have had it good all the time. I was reading about this, and there was actually a big incident in New Orleans in the 1800s, which was one of the largest lynchings out there. And you hear about the largest lynching, you would think that it would have to do with black people. But no, it was actually Italian Americans. And it's because this whole city was upset that these Italians were acquitted on the charges for killing a police officer. They took justice in their own hands and they went out to the prison where they were being held, shot most of them, and then hung the other ones as well. And I guess they must have hung the dead bodies as well, since it was like one of the largest lynchings out there. Something that people tend to forget.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a torrid history when it comes to immigrants outside of the U.S. coming in, especially during that period of time, which, hasn't really gotten too much better, at least for Italians. I think maybe it has, but I think as a country built on immigrants, we don't tend to treat our immigrants very well.
Yes, but it's been getting better as long as we stay with this progression. I mean, like you said, for the Italian Americans, now they're just Americans. They are fully integrated. Yes, we don't even have the term Italian American, and you don't ever hear anyone using the Italian slurs out there.
I would disagree. I think that definitely had a resurgence after the Jersey Shore era.
Yeah, never mind. I can see that. Jersey Shore, yeah, that didn't help.
And I definitely do think when you go to certain cities and stuff, you are going to have areas that are going to have more of an Italian-American population. So, I don't know that integrated... Because when we talk about cultural assimilation, I think there's this idea that, all of their Italian culture is lost and it's all just American. I don't think it's quite that. Especially, like I said, in certain neighborhoods, I do think there still is a strong connection to being Italian-American. So, I think it's still prevalent, but it's definitely a different view than what we would have had back then.
Yes.
So I think I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the other players in this film and the influence for them. I think Brando is one that we're talking about a lot. And I think I think this film did have a big influence for Brando because it kind of changed the reception of him as an actor. He was definitely seen as a has-been at that point. So this was really a turning point for him, and then he went on to have several more roles after that.
You said for Marlon Brando?
Mm-hmm. I think there was a film, too, that he had with Matthew Broderick. I'm blanking on the name. Where he basically played his character in The Godfather in this film with Matthew Broderick.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. But yes, a lot of these actors had a great career afterwards, especially Al Pacino. This was one of his first films, and we all know about his career. Yeah, this did a lot. And for Francis Ford Coppola, too, this brought him up and gave him a lot of opportunities. He went on to make some great films because before this, and you talk about this is one of the greatest movies ever made, you wouldn't expect it to have been from this guy. No one expected it.
I do want to point out that The Freshman was the movie with Matthew Broderick and Marlon Brando where he basically just played his character in The Godfather in that movie.
Oh, nice. I don't think I've seen The Freshman.
I haven't. I've seen it. So I've seen that before I've seen The Godfather, but I got the reference, I think, when I was watching it, even though I hadn't seen it. But yeah, I agree that this definitely changed the reception of Coppola. He was really young when the film was created, and originally he wasn't slated to direct this film. Paramount mostly chose him, he said in an interview, because he was young and Italian. He was someone that they could push around if they needed to, or at least they thought. And if it got any bad reception, they could say, hey, but it was an Italian-American director, so you can't be mad at us. Which seems like something that people would do to this day, but, that's how it goes.
Oh, people do. One of the biggest creators of movies does that now. Marvel, Disney. Mm-hmm. They do that a lot. Yeah. It's good that they hire people that are related to films, hiring women to direct women's superheroes, hiring Black people to direct a Black-led movie, but they do hire people that they can push around. You look at a lot of the directors for Marvel movies, really look at their careers beforehand, see how young they are, and why you never really hear about how this movie was directed by this person. There's only a few big directors in the Marvel universe or the creation of the MCU. One of the big ones, Spider-Man Homecoming, was directed by James Watt, who had one pretty small film beforehand called Cop Car, and now he gets to direct this, multi-$100 million movie. So studios still do it now, and it's because they have an idea of the movie that they want to make, which is what we said before, or I use the term studio-made movies. And yes, they did try to push him around. When we say he was young, he was young. He was 29 years old at the time. And they got on him a lot about not being up to schedule, for being over budget. But actually, he made the film ahead of schedule, probably because he said he was rushing a little bit. But he also made it under budget.
Yeah, I think Marvel also likes to do indie darlings. And like I said, I don't like saying it's a diverse, they like to do diverse hires. But I think in a degree that Chloe Zhao being a good example of this, they give her enough freedom so that they can use her as a scapegoat if something goes bad, if it is not critically received very well. Which is a shame, because I think she's obviously an indie darling. She's done well in the film world. And then with the reception that Eternals got, it was kind of sad to see how that was, in a way, pinned to be reflective on her.
Yes, and with Marvel as well, they did what Paramount didn't do with Francis Ford Coppola, and they fired the director. We hear a lot of times with Marvel and Disney movies, creative differences. Mm-hmm. You had big directors who try to come in and direct these Marvel movies, such as Edgar Wright. I'm surprised Sam Raimi stuck with Doctor Strange. Or no, he left too, right?
No, he's still doing Doctor Strange from what I know of.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's staying with Doctor Strange. And looking at the trailer, I see some Sam Raimi in there. And actually, no, not too surprised with Sam Raimi, because he did do Spider-Man. He's used to a kind of a studio agenda and making a comic book movie or making a blockbuster. But yes, you see these other directors, and yeah, that's why I have respect for Warner Brothers. Not all their movies are great, but they do give a good amount of freedom for better and worse.
It is interesting, though, because Coppola did turn down this film at first. He wasn't interested in the story at all, and he was going to turn it down. But then he met the writer, who was also the writer of the novel that this is based on, Mario Puzo. He co-wrote the screenplay as well, and so he got a lot more interested in the film after that.
I'm surprised he turned it down, because it's not like he really had much going on before this film.
No.
I know he was pals with George Lucas. Also, George Lucas told him to take this film because Francis Ford Coppola couldn't find out why. He was in debt. Or no, I did find out why. There was another movie that underperformed, and he was in debt $400,000 to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I am glad you brought up George Lucas, though, because there's a very important part of film history that I wanted to talk about with this film. And Coppola, he's definitely one who brought forth the film school generation that it's called in film history. He was the first to really be a huge financial and critical success of these directors that was known as the film school generation, and he was followed by directors like George Lucas, like Scorsese, like Steven Spielberg. And these were directors who went to film school. You know, you didn't really have a lot of directors who were going to film school at that time, and they were technically proficient, and they were well versed in a lot of film, both American and foreign. I was watching an interview with Spielberg. He said that one of the reasons why they did so well is because they were all single and they all loved film. So I thought that was a funny little note that he said. But that definitely is a huge period of time and a huge shift from what was being done in Hollywood at that time. And I think, honestly, it's probably one of the best periods of time in American cinema. For me personally, I believe that it truly is one of the best periods of time in film history when you talk about the movements in film history. And George Lucas actually was a second unit director for The Godfather as well, so I thought that was also interesting. So I guess there really was a friendship there. I forget which film school they went to. You know, UCLA, USC, there was some school in New York that were all big ones at that time. But these were directors who definitely were trained to make movies. And I think that their results, all of them, had wonderful results from it.
Yeah, I didn't know about the film school. That is interesting. And now I think about it, I wonder if that was the same with France. If France was, because they're huge. The French is huge, has a huge influence on cinema. I wonder if, I know with the New Wave, which is one of the biggest influences in film, they did have a lot of directors and writers and other people go out and make their own films. So I would think that they were film students before as well. But America, they not falling behind or anything, but films were different. Everybody now thinks about film as one huge collection, but films do vary in different countries.
I don't know that they were big film school. I don't think that was a thing in the French New Wave. I know Godard, at least, he went to school for engineering, which is actually speaking to a lot of people I know who've gone into film and seen different backgrounds from directors, for some reason there's this weird pathway between engineering to directing, which is kind of strange to me, or at least from engineering to filmmaking. I don't know what the correlation is there, but I do see that a lot. But I don't think that there was a big film school movement at that time for the French New Wave. But the French New Wave did definitely influence this film school generation in America. And this is a generation that was definitely very apart from Hollywood. Hollywood at that time was kind of its own closed off thing. It was very hard to really break into it. So they went to school, but they didn't really have a direct pathway to making these big films in Hollywood. So it's interesting that they did have the success that they did. And Hollywood at that time, they were making a lot of musicals and westerns, and those were genres that were kind of dying out. So it really was a shift in cinema overall. It also came out during a cynical time in America, because this was when Vietnam and Watergate were happening. We talked about these things a little bit when we were talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how we saw a shift from realism in horror. But this definitely marked its own shift in cinema in general and what was popular, what was going on in film history at that time. And this is something that I actually studied about in school in my film class, so I definitely have a little bit knowledge on this from that, so props to my professor for teaching that to us. But I was excited to be able to talk about the film school generation because, like I said, I think that American cinema in general, there are periods of time where it just doesn't work for me. I think a lot of old Hollywood doesn't really work for me, so this generation of filmmakers, I just applaud them. I think they're great.
No, I agree. Especially, like I said, 29 years old and made one of the greatest films out there. Is there anything else that you found in your research?
Well, I think also just going back to Coppola, I think it is funny that he really was a nobody at that time. I mean, the Coppolas, they're basically a dynasty now in the film world. They have their own dynasty. You talk about Sofia Coppola, Gia, Roman, is that his son? So there's a family of directors there, but also you see actors like Nick Cage is a part of his family, Jason Schwartzman. It's a whole dynasty, and they're a very well-known family. So the way that he came up in the world, in the film world, in the Hollywood world, I think it's an interesting story to look into.
Yes, and he gave a couple of his family members roles in these movies as well, just throughout
I know
it.
Sophia was in the third one.
Yeah, Sophia was in the third one. Even one of the bigger roles in this, the sister of the Corleones, was related to Francis Ford Coppola, and he actually didn't want to cast her. He was scared that he was going to be accused of nepotism, but someone went ahead and told him, no, let her audition at least and see where it goes, because she's actually really good.
Also, just a fun note for the Coppolas, I'm sitting in front of my wine cabinet right now, and I do actually have a bottle from the Coppola winery.
Oh, nice.
I mean, you can just get it at the store. It's at any liquor store. It's not really that fancy, but
are we getting sponsored for this, or am I cutting this out?
Yeah, can we get sponsored for this? No, but they really are a huge family.
And you say that this was being taught in film school. We talked about this being one of the best films. It has a long runtime. Would you recommend this only to cinephiles, or would you recommend this to a general audience as well, or in between?
I think I would recommend it to both. I mean, like you said, it's a very well-known film. So I feel like me, if you haven't seen it yet, it probably should be on your for shame list. I agree. But don't feel bad about it because, like I said, it's been on mine for several years now. So don't feel bad. Just go out and watch it.
Yes, I recommend it to everyone as well. Of course, the cinephiles are going to see a little bit more in it, but the general audience is still going to get a lot from it as well. And again, this is a runtime that you don't feel. So the 2 hours and 55 minutes, don't be intimidated. Just think about it as you're binging a Netflix show. This is like half the time of a whole season. Not even a whole season, probably, depending on what you're watching. It's a fraction of a season on Netflix that you will probably binge anyway.
Well, I know it's not as long as The Irishman was. There's another one I've been putting off that's a similar length. It's a Scorsese and kind of, it's about the Teamsters, right?
I forgot who it's about. I think it's about some man who's Irish.
Yeah, maybe. But
no,
yeah,
The Irishman
that's
is
like
even longer.
4 hours. Well, yeah, I said that one's even longer. So if you can watch that, you can definitely watch The Godfather. I still haven't watched it yet.
No, I haven't heard enough good things that makes me want to put aside the time, because it is 3 hours and 25 minutes, and I heard the runtime is an issue.
I mean, I remember there was even like guides coming out at that time to tell you when you could take breaks and how you can break it up for the best optimal viewing. And I'm like, that's a little too much to me.
Yeah, that is a little too much. If your movie makes you want to take breaks and intermissions, then it's not that great.
I'm not fully against intermissions in films though. Just because, especially if you're in the theater, sometimes you have to go to the bathroom, and it kind of sucks that you have to miss part of a film to do that.
I haven't had that issue since I was a kid, though. But I do like having an intermission when I'm in the house just to put away the dishes and grab another snack or drink or something. I do like that. I think we did it for this film, too. All right. Anything you want to say before we whip out those spoilers?
I guess we didn't really talk too much about like the technical aspects of it. Is there anything you wanted to say from that regard?
Yes. One thing I found interesting was the beginning. You have this wedding outside, and it's an outside wedding. It's very bright, colorful. There's a lot of dancing going on. People are having a great time. And then it keeps switching back to the business side of things, which is a good introspect of what this movie is going to be about, family and business. And while they're in that business, they shot it in very low light to make it appear more shady, which it actually was. Actually, Paramount was against that, and they told him that you have to brighten this up. You can't really see what's going on. And the cinematographer had to tell him, no, this is what I'm planning to do with it. I thought this film was just framed very well in a lot of scenes. There's one attention to detail that I like. Actually, there's a lot with Michael Corleone. With him kind of coming up to the reins to take over the family business. First, he's a law-abiding war veteran, highly decorated, and then he has to become this head of a crime family, but he's not perfect along the way, and I like that. I like him not being perfect. There's a lot of scenes in which there's attention to it, and things don't pan out perfectly for him or for anybody in this film.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the wedding scene because I just wanted to talk about that briefly because that was the moment where I realized, yes, this director really deserves the hype that he gets. Because for me, the wedding scene, it felt like an event. It felt like an event that I was attending as the audience. It was just so much. There were so many extras in that scene. There's a lot going on, both in front of the camera and, both at the forefront and in the background. So, I don't know. I really like that scene. I think it was well lit with the contrast between what was going on inside, indoors, and outside. And so I thought that scene was just so well done from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, there's a lot of good scenes here with the extras as well. It makes this whole movie feel very lively, like you are in a real world. The scene where somebody's getting beat up in the street, that took 4 days to shoot, and I think they said it was like 400 extras. No, that was the wedding. But there were a lot of extras on that scene as well, and that took 4 days to shoot. So the directing was very well done in this movie. And props to Francis Ford Coppola for not being pushed around by the studio as they were trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a lot of personality to this film that you only get when you have a director who has a free rein.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, everybody was enjoying their time on set. All the actors, there were some improv lines, improv actions. People were kind of bringing in what they thought would be brought into their character. Francis Ford Coppola had them sit down as their characters and enjoy a meal together, and they were not allowed to break character at all. There were some things that were even kept in the film, like you were kind of laughing about Luca practicing his lines, his notes to talk to Vito Corleone, the Godfather. That actually was put in after the scene in which he talks to the Godfather. What happened is that he actually was flubbing his lines because he was nervous in front of the Marlon Brando. So because he was so nervous and everything, they made that part of his character, and then they added in that him taking the notes. And I talked about them just having fun on set and doing what their characters may do. One of the things that they had on the set that may not go too well during our times is that they had this huge pranking war going on where they were mooning each other. And they said they got to the point that you couldn't turn a corner without somebody mooning you. And actually, Marlon Brando was awarded a belt for being the best prankster because during the wedding scene, he actually ended up mooning that whole guest, like 400 extras. They said everyone had a great laugh about it except for some older ladies who didn't like the view. But overall, everybody was just having a fun time with it.
Yeah, and that's so refreshing to hear. We just covered the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series a couple weeks back and talking about the film conditions there. It's very different. Very different. I know we haven't released that episode yet, but you'll hear what happened that went down on that set. But it is definitely refreshing to hear a good And it seems mostly healthy film environment, set environment.
Yes, definitely, because this was also a small budget film. This film only cost $6 million back in the day. So when we look back at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was also a low budget film, just because you don't have money doesn't mean that people need to suffer. If you have a good director behind it and people are having fun on set, you'll make a good movie, or at least you'll have a great and safe environment.
Did you see how much this grossed? Because I saw that it was the highest grossing of 1972, but I didn't see the actual number.
It was over $240 million.
Okay, so that is a big difference between what it was made for.
80 times this budget. Or no, 40 times this budget. Math was off for a second.
Math is hard.
Yeah.
I also forgot to mention it earlier. Another series that did its own version of the wedding scene was an anime series called 21 Days. I've watched the first couple episodes and I'm really liking it. I do have to continue it, but that is a anime series that's definitely influenced by these Italian families in the US. So it's definitely a good one to check out if you're interested in that. I still need to finish it, so I can't fully vouch for it, but I do like what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I have to check that out.
Great anime opening too. Great opening song.
Ooh, I do love a good anime opening. But Caitlyn, hold up for a second. I got this package. Let me check it real quick. Ugh, it's a fish. Why is there a fish? Wait, there's a note. There's spoilers. The spoilers are here, Caitlyn.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was a very heavy on the nose message.
I don't remember what you're talking about. Where is there a fish?
Remember, you were laughing about it because they killed a certain character.
Oh, yes. I do remember because he was sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah. A note would have sufficed, or just I don't know.
Hey, by the way, we killed this guy.
Yeah, like, or right, just so you sleep with the fishes.
I was like, why is there a box with a fish?
Or I would like them to take the extra step and to dress up the fish as if it was sleeping, like put a little nightcap and a mask on it.
Yeah.
That would be, if you're gonna be that on the nose, you gotta punch the nose. But in all seriousness, we're going to go ahead and get into spoilers. So if you have not seen this movie, The Godfather, 1, for shame on you. 2, please go out and watch it. It is a great film, like we said. And we're going to go ahead and get into our second portion. So once you watch the movie, come back, because we're going to be talking about whether or not we agree with the critics on this one. We're going to be talking about this movie a little bit more, along with those spoilers, why it was significant for its time, if this movie still holds up, and our overall rating and final comments. So please come back or stay, depending which category you fall in.
I will say it was fun finally seeing these iconic scenes play out, because obviously I knew about the horse scene. I knew that I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse type thing. So all those iconic moments, finally being able to see them play out in the context of them, I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I still knew a lot of these scenes coming up, and seeing them played out, such as the famous "You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding," but seeing how that actually gets stretched out and seeing that whole scene and seeing what that actually means and how that holds up. Because you see that he's both ruthless but caring. He talks to the first guy saying, yeah, I'll help you, but why have you never considered me a friend? Why have you never pledged your loyalty to me? Are you afraid of me? He'll take care of you, but he does demand that respect. And I think that goes for the whole family as well.
Yeah, we definitely have a good way of showing both the ruthlessness and the more tender moments. For Brando in particular, I liked the interactions with his grandchildren. I think that brought a little bit of tenderness to his character. And even just with Michael, you could tell that there was such a great love for his sons that it really just played out very well.
Yeah, there were a lot of sweet moments with the family, whether it was them eating dinner or the famous wedding scene. There's just a lot of moments in between them that made you like the characters, or Sonny going out and defending his sister. And it's not wasted, because those things come back into play, such as, again, seeing Sonny, that's how he was brought out.
I really like Sonny. I really liked him as a character, so that was definitely a sad death for me.
That was too. A great death, though. That was a brilliant scene, that toll booth assassination. And I like his character. His character was flawed too, because he was cheating on his wife and taking away the time from his kids. But again, I think it was a reflection on his family. They do care about their family and things, but they are doing things that aren't morally correct.
Yeah, and I like that I like that he was also a hothead because I like hothead characters, but the fact that it also treated that as a flaw and how it was shown, how Michael's leadership style was so much different, I thought that was interesting as well.
Yes, because all of them, you're kind of wondering who's going to be the leader, who's going to step up, and how are they actually going to take over this role. And you don't really expect Michael to be that one, but he is. And he shows that he's also not the one to be messed with. And he really does prove himself at the end of why he is the head of the family.
I definitely think I have more of an appreciation for Al Pacino as well, having watched this. I think the only one I've seen with him in it and the lead role was Scarface. And I'm not a big fan of Scarface, to be honest. I don't know if it's controversial or not. I think it goes on a bit long and there's some other issues with it. But I do think I really did like him in this film, and I do look forward to seeing more films of him in it.
Yeah, I've seen some Al Pacino films. I'm trying to remember the good ones. I did like Scarface. I don't think Scarface is the top film. And I think watching this film too, you understand what makes a great gangster movie. I think Scarface is just one of those real popular films, but people agree that it's not the best film. But Al Pacino is one of those actors now that kind of took any role. So I really haven't seen him in too many good things, at least in recent decades. And there's still some movies of his that I want to see still.
I know I want to see Dog Day Afternoon, and then there's another one with Johnny Depp, I believe, that I want to see, but I'm blanking on the name right now.
Have you seen Insomnia?
No.
Insomnia is good, and it has Robin Williams in a role that you usually don't see him as well.
Okay.
Actually, it has Robin Williams kind of in a villainous role. And then Devil's Advocate, I know is a popular movie. It had a lot of flaws, but it does have a great Al Pacino performance, especially near the end. There's a scene that is pretty popular as well.
Donnie Brasco. Donnie Brasco is the one with Johnny Depp.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I don't know much about it, but it's one that will be on my to-watch list.
I like how this movie, all the characters have their own personalities. And I think it also, now thinking about it, it shows kind of what they would be like as a leader and why they cannot be that leader. They even explain like, hey, this is why you're not the head of the family, or this is why you're doing this, and I'm going to go ahead and take this. Because there's another brother in here that we sometimes fail to mention, which is Fredo.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy, Fredo, who is so, I mean, you'll see it more in the second one, but there's a reason that Fredo is now somewhat of an Italian slur because of this movie, because of this character. I mean, we even find out that he's getting abused. He's a grown man getting smacked around by another grown man as if they're in like some domestic dispute.
Yeah, I didn't really get what was going on with that character. I didn't really understand his motivations.
I think the reason that he got smacked around shows his motivation. He was screwing two of the cocktail waitresses at the same time while they were supposed to be working. So he's more focused on his own self-indulgence, living up to what he thinks is the life. Even when he fights Michael Corleone and they're supposed to be doing business, he's got these showgirls in there. He's got a whole band playing. His mind is not there.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like he didn't want to get his hands dirty either.
Yeah, he seemed like the type of gangster that you usually see that lives it up too much and that ends up being their demise.
I don't even know what I would call him a gangster. I feel like he wasn't even that. He was definitely the black sheep.
Yeah, he was definitely the black sheep. And it's funny because the person that you would think would probably be the black sheep is not, which is Tom Hagen, who is kind of an adopted brother. And he has a high role in this. He's the right-hand man of the Don and eventually Michael as well.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting part to the story as well, because I wasn't really sure where it was going to play out, but I think that the film did a good job of really recognizing him as part of his family. He was their brother, even though he was not really their blood relative. I thought that maybe that would be more of a... I was afraid that it was going to be more of a plot point where that was going to be more in contention. There was going to be a split. But while there was some issues between them and how they viewed things, I don't think it was ever a real major point of contention. They still saw him as a brother. Yeah,
I thought that was going to come up too, and I like that it didn't. One, because that'd be predictable, and that's usually what we would see. But he is the most intelligent character in this movie, and I think that's why he's not the leader and why he understands why he's not the leader, because I don't think he has that full ruthlessness in him as well. And again, it shows what you need to be a leader of this family.
I think also, too, I mean, for minority families, and I think a lot of times you see this idea of the extended family as well, about how much they are still part of the family. So I liked that part of it.
Yeah, but one part of the extended family, can't blame what happened to him though. Carlo. I thought this was my second time watching the film. I couldn't remember what happened to Carlo, so I thought they were going to keep Carlo around for a little bit longer. I'm like, man, they're really about to let this dude go. Actually, they announced him as his right-hand man just to keep him around until they finally took him out. And then he got into that car, and I was still thinking, oh man, they're really going to let him go. I wonder what he's going to do in Las Vegas. And then, nope, not going anywhere.
That was a roller coaster. That really was. Because I wasn't sure what's happening. I was like, please do not let this man live. He should have learned the first time he got beat not to mess with his family. And then, yeah, so he got what was coming to him.
Yeah, he definitely did. And it showed that even if you are family, if you betray the family, you're not going to be forgiven.
I will say one part that, I don't want to say it fails, but it definitely is a product of its time, I think, and a product of this genre, is that there really isn't really fleshed out female characters very much. There's definitely prevalent female characters, but they're not fleshed out to quite the degree as the male characters, and there's never really much interaction with them outside of what the men are doing. And even the mother in this story I don't think she was ever shown. Brando's wife in this film, I don't think she was ever shown. She was mentioned a couple times, but I don't remember seeing her.
Yeah, his wife was actually the singer at the wedding, but no, you don't get much mention of him, which is weird because he's on a deathbed for a little bit and you never see her interaction with it. I completely forgot she had a wife until I was reading the fun facts and they said that his wife was that singer.
Yeah, I would have never even known.
Yeah, I think this movie does lack that. I think it is a bit of a product of its time. But
like I said, I think it's a product of the genre as well, because that's just standard for these films and for this genre. It's also kind of why I like Boardwalk Empire a little bit. I think it does it a little bit better. There's definitely very strong fleshed out characters in that are female. But I do one day just wish that I can get a whole genre of this that is just about the female gangsters, because they exist. They definitely existed, and I know especially for people like Virginia Hill, for Arlene Brickman, I know there was a film coming up at one point that Jennifer Lawrence was supposed to star in that was going to be about Arlene Brickman, but that I don't know whatever happened to that. But there's the female mobsters are definitely, it's a movie that I'm still waiting for, a female gangster movie.
They've tried it a couple times. I believe Jessica Chastain and Viola Davis had a movie not too long ago.
I mean, that's more modern, though.
Yeah.
You're talking about Widows. I mean, I don't think that's... I'm talking about more, like, historical mobsters, I guess. But even the modern ones, I feel like the ones that we have, like, think... The all-female action movies that we have nowadays, they tend to not do so well. I'm thinking of the 365, is that the one that just came out? Or yes. The Oceans movies. They just don't ever do very well because I feel like there's so much lack of direction, of precision in that screenplay. They're just not well done, I think, and it's sad, but I feel like sometimes there's a gimmick to draw you in is that it's going to be an all-female cast, but then they don't put anything else into it other than that. They don't give it the respect that it deserves.
Yeah, and I hate to see that. There was a couple films I was looking forward to last year. Gunpowder Milkshake and Kate, that I heard didn't do too well, and I was upset to hear that. There is another property that does have a good woman role in it, not just one role, but multiple roles, and that is Peaky Blinders. One of the strongest characters in there, their aunt, Polly, who sadly the actress passed away last year, she has a very strong role, and actually a lot of the women in that show have a strong role, and it's not like they're just giving them extra screen time for the diversity. No, they have a good arc, they have a good position within the family.
Yeah, that's another one that I'm going to put on my to-watch list, especially because I heard that my girl Anya's in it, Anya Taylor-Joy. It's just one I've been putting off because of my Cillian Murphy fear.
But you're starting to get used to his face now, aren't you?
I am. I'm getting more used to Cillian Murphy. Like, before I really couldn't watch anything with him in it. Well, it's not that I couldn't watch it. It's just that his eyes terrify me. I think he has terrifying eyes, but I'm getting more used to him now. I think he's a great actor. I do think he's a great actor. And I think he does a really good job in the roles that he's in. It's just, his eyes I feel like they see into my soul.
It works in Peaky Blinders the most, his look. I think he looks a lot like his role. because I know what you're talking about. So Cillian Murphy is a unique looking actor. He's a unique looking person. Not a bad looking person, just a unique looking person, much like Anna Taylor-Joy. She has a unique and distinct look to her.
She does. But I think it's still in the eyes, because if he had brown eyes, I don't think it would be quite as piercing.
Piercing's all a part of it. It's part of the Cillian Murphy aesthetic.
If I was actually in a room with Cillian Murphy, like, I wonder how I would act. Like, I feel like I would just be, like, tripping over my words. I wouldn't know what to do.
Pretty sure he's used to it. With this film and the women as well, yeah, they do keep them away from the business, which not only during the time of the filming, but during the time in which this movie had taken place, women were kept away from that side of the business, especially the crime portion as well. Or at least that's what's been led to believe. Like you said, there are women mobsters that have existed and probably do still exist.
Also just like the gun moles.
It's even shown the famous final scene of him closing the door on his wife. And you see all the men there, and this is now his life. This is him shutting himself off from what he used to be. And he even straight up lies to her. Like, just straight up lies to her. Probably the coldest. He's killed a lot of people. He's done a lot of things, but that was probably the coldest thing he did in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
What did you think of Michael Corleone? Because honestly, this is one of my favorite characters in film.
I really liked him. Like I said, I'm a sucker for a corruption arc, and I absolutely loved his storyline. And I think acting-wise, he knocked it out of the park. And I think he was an interesting character. And he doesn't say a lot. He's kind of quiet. He kind of just does. He's quiet. He doesn't tell you what he's going to do, but you can tell that he's thinking a lot about what his next move is going to be on screen. And I thought that was interesting as well. He's definitely an introspective character. And to be able to show that and portray that well on screen is very well crafted, I think. I think it shows good direction because, in a visual medium, you don't have access to the inner thoughts like you would for like a novel. So I thought it was just handled very well.
Yes, and I like how vulnerable his character is. Like I said before, he's not a perfect character. He was supposed to shoot both of the guys at the dinner twice in the head. He shot one in the head, one in the neck, and then he shot the other dude. He only shot him once. He didn't actually fully commit to the plan, and he was supposed to hold the gun by his side, but he ended up dropping his gun like you said they did in American Gangster. Again, not to the plan. It's not perfect, and that attention to detail makes it more believable as well. He also gets punched in the face, and he keeps that bruise for a while, which we were kind of confused of, did he get hit again, like off screen? Does he just keep getting hit? But found out again the attention to detail because he went to Italy after getting punched and having his jaw broken and having that course throughout his face. He wasn't able to receive the medical care that they have in America in Italy. There was a difference there at that time. So the bruises didn't really heal well, which is why he's continually putting a napkin to his nose, is because his sinuses are now messed up as well. So again, the attention to detail really is there, and I like that.
Yeah, I was really impressed when you told me that because we were laughing at it at first, and then when we learned why it was like that, it was very interesting to hear.
Yeah, and again, the violence isn't always exaggerated in this. It's not always completely dramatized. Yeah, you do have some, like the toll booth scene. That was quite a scene. A lot of bullets there. But when he gets knocked out by the cop, he just gets hit once. And this is supposed to be the character that we're following. He doesn't have a straight up beatdown. It's not like he's going to get up and he starts fighting back even harder. No, he gets hit. He gets pretty much sucker punched and it knocks him out. And again, it shows that this character is not invulnerable.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why you saw a big difference between him and Sonny and how they approached things. Because Sonny was definitely a punch first, ask questions later type person. And he's definitely more of a violent personality than Michael is. So seeing that difference was cool.
So this movie, of course, has had a huge influence even till today. So of course, it was significant for its time as well. They didn't really have many gangster films like this in the past, and they definitely didn't show them in this sort of light as well. Also, like you said, this was made by an Italian American and starred many Italian Americans as well. Is there anything else you found to be significant for its time in your research?
I mean, nothing that we didn't already touch on before and under the influence that it had, but I just do want to just reiterate that this definitely was a shift for Hollywood. It was a shift in general for the way that we know how film operates. It was a shift in film history. So I think that it definitely was significant for its time. It continues to show that significance.
And throughout time, do you think this movie has held up? Do you think it still holds up?
Yeah, I do think it holds up. I think there was a couple things that didn't for me, a couple small details. One, I think, being the blood. I hate to say that the blood doesn't hold up, but it definitely is not the more realistic looking blood that we see nowadays. It's definitely still that bright red blood. So I think if it was made more modern, but I don't know that it would still be that color, but at the same time, I thought the color worked well for that cinematography. Would
it be racist for me to say that the blood was bright red because of all the marinara they ate?
Maybe. That might be.
And do I get a pass because I am like 1/16th Italian or something? I don't know.
You're 160? I mean, you live there. There you go. Did you eat a lot of marinara when you were in Italy?
A good amount.
Well, maybe.
I probably still bleed bright red.
Yeah. Just so in your system now. I feel like another thing that didn't hold up for me, which is, like I said, it's just minor things. There was some fight choreography that I thought looked a little bit dated, and some of the Foley in the film didn't work for me. I thought it was, I don't want to say dated again, but it definitely was a little bit more, I don't want to say cartoony either, but I feel like there'd be more attention to the Foley in today's understanding of that art and that side to it. But story-wise and everything else, I think it definitely holds up. I definitely recommend this to a modern audience. And like I said, there's a very little nitpicks that I had when watching it.
And Foley, what do you mean for those who don't know?
So Foley is basically the sound effects you hear on screen. A lot of the sound that you hear of things moving around, things getting hit, just all the different sound effects that you hear. It's actually recorded later in post-production, so you have a team that goes in and they make a lot of noise with different objects and stuff that they have, and they record it and they add it over top of the video file. And if you have a chance, definitely look up Foley artists on YouTube or wherever, because it's such a fascinating art to see, and the different kinds of noises they are able to make and how they make it is just so interesting to me.
Yeah, one of the famous ones that you'll see in here is the person shaking the thin sheet of metal to make thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it holds up. Yes, there are a couple things dated there, especially for the late 70s. The fights weren't that polished, but they were still good, I think. And overall, yeah, this movie holds up. I don't think it matters when you watch this film. Everything there is going to look good. So on a letter grade system, Caitlyn, what do you give this movie?
I think I'm going to give this a solid A. Borderline A+. I think that's what I'm going to give it. Because I really did enjoy this movie. I don't know that it's one I'm going to rewatch over and over again. And it doesn't hold up to my beloved TV series, Boardwalk Empire. But I still really like this film. And I think it's a groundbreaking film. And it has all the elements that I love and like to see. And so I'll give it an A+.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll give it an A+. The only reason that this doesn't make it to my S tier is because it doesn't have that special oomph to it.
That oomph.
Yeah, that special oomph. And actually, we'll talk a little bit more about why this didn't make my S tier in our next episode with part 2, because for some reason that this doesn't make it in my S tier will be explained more during that episode.
Okay, so now I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this next episode.
So I'll say A+, because there's nothing that really brings this movie down for me. There's nothing technical. There's no points I really have to take away from this movie. This is a near perfect movie.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like I said, I did have issues with some few things, but they're such small, nitpicky things that it doesn't really have any real bearing on my rating.
So for our next episode, we are going to release Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We teased this episode before. You guys know what's it about. So if you watched the film already in anticipation of our episode, hey, it's coming out soon. Again, we apologize. There were some technical difficulties, but we got it fixed or repaired it in some way, re-recorded it. and the episode will be released out for our next episode.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank you guys for your patience with that, and so I hope you look forward to it. In the meantime, if you want to find us on our socials, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at OpSilverScreen. You can find us on Facebook at Operation Silver Screen, but once again, Twitter and Instagram, it's going to be OpSilverScreen. If you want to find us on our personal letterboxes to see what we're watching throughout the week and some different lists we might have on our personal accounts, you can find me at Coffee Spoon Kate, that's Coffee Spoon CAIT, and Bryant is going to be at Swank Seal, capital S, capital S.
Also, guys, it is Women's History Month. If you're looking for some films to go ahead and watch that are our favorites between Caitlyn and I that have been directed and created by women, we do have that up on our Instagram as well. It is a great list and will definitely keep you busy for the month. I promise you there is something on there that you have not seen. Also, make sure you guys leave us a review, leave us your comments. That's how we're going to go ahead and make this show even better. Like I said before, thank you for sticking with us through our technical difficulties and the delay of some episodes, even though we still got another episode out there. I'm still going to go ahead, and what I'm working on right now is our outtakes. Caitlyn and I are not perfect, so we do have some bloopers, little blooper reels to share with you guys coming up, and see how you guys like that. But again, please talk with us, share your opinions. We're definitely open to hear them. So, till HQ calls us back to do our debrief, I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
See you.